There's a question so powerful, so ancient, that even the most brilliant minds in history have struggled to answer it. Where did God come from? And wait, if everything needs a beginning, then who created God? You feel it too, don't you? That strange silence that follows this question, like the entire universe holds its breath, waiting for an answer that might be too big for time itself. We're going to travel far today, not just back in time, but beyond time. Beyond atoms, beyond angels, beyond the first let there be light. In this video, we're going to wrestle with something so massive, so mysterious, it will shake the foundation of how you see reality, existence, and God himself. So before we dive deep, have you ever asked this question in secret, afraid of what it might mean? And what if the answer doesn't fit into logic? Would you still want to know? Don't go anywhere, because by the end of this video, you may never see existence the same way again. Before we dive in, shout out to all our viewers. Make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss any of these mind-opening, soul-awakening videos. Let's start here. Everything we know begins. Stars explode, galaxies spin into being, babies are born, even thoughts have a starting point. So naturally, our minds try to apply that same logic to God. If the universe had a beginning, then who started the one who started it all? That's the paradox. But what if God never began? You see, the problem isn't with God. The problem is with us. We're using time-bound logic to explain a being outside of time. Imagine asking, what's north of the North Pole? That's how it sounds when we ask, who created God? It's the kind of question that only makes sense inside time. But God, by his very nature, is outside of it. But wait, that raises another question. If God is outside of time, what does that even look like? Is he floating in nothingness? Or is there a dimension more ancient than time itself? You see, when Moses asked God his name, God didn't say, I became. He said, I am. Not I was, not I will be. Just I am. Pure existence. Not a beginning. Just being. Have you ever sat in silence and tried to imagine that? A presence that didn't begin and will never end. A fire that burns without a source. Now here's the real shocker. That's the very thing the human soul longs for, because deep down, we know we were made by something that doesn't flicker with time. Something eternal. And yet the mystery deepens. So the real question becomes, how can something just exist? Can anything really be uncreated? Is that just faith? Or is it a reality hidden beneath the veil of physics? We're just getting started. What does eternal really mean? Let's be honest. Our brains aren't wired to understand eternity. When we ask who created God, we're revealing something deeply human. We are time-bound creatures. Everything we know has a beginning, a middle, and an end. Trees grow, mountains erode, people are born and die. Even stars collapse eventually. So when someone says, God has no beginning, we instinctively recoil. That can't be right, can it? But here's where things get supernatural. In Exodus 3:14, when Moses asked God for his name at the burning bush, God didn't respond with a title like king or lord or master. He said something that is echoed through the ages. I am that I am. He didn't say I was created by or I began at. He simply said, I am. That's a name beyond time, beyond space, beyond causality. It's a declaration that God exists outside of our universe's ticking clock. He isn't part of the timeline. We are. While we're moving through seconds and hours, God is already at the end and the beginning simultaneously. That's why he says in Revelation, I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. But here's the twist that really breaks the mind. Even beginning and end are words he only uses so we can understand. In reality, God doesn't exist within time. Time exists within God. Let that sink in. We measure time by motion. The sun moves and we call that a day. Our hearts beat and we feel minutes go by. But in the beginning, before there were stars, clocks, or even a before, there was God, fully alive, fully aware, existing in what theologians call the eternal now. So if we ask, who created God? It's like asking, what color is silence? Or, what's north of the North Pole? It's a category error. God didn't come from somewhere. He is the source of everything else that did come from somewhere. That includes time itself. And if time had a beginning, what does that say about the nature of God's existence? More importantly, if God always was, then why did he choose to create now and not billions of years before? Was he waiting, planning, or was he watching something far beyond our comprehension unfold? And that raises an even deeper question. What was God doing before creation? This is where it gets wild, because if God always existed, before the stars, before the angels, before the idea of existence itself, then the question becomes, what was he doing before he made anything at all? Let's sit with that. No galaxies, no light, no darkness, no angels shouting for joy. Just God, alone yet complete, silent yet filled with infinite potential. Not lonely, because God lacks nothing, but deliberately still, like a painter staring at a blank canvas, not because he's unsure, but because the masterpiece requires a moment of stillness before the first stroke. But this wasn't just a few seconds of pre-creation boredom. We're talking about eternity before time, infinite existence before the first moment ever began. So, what was happening? Here's what some of the early church thinkers believed. 1. God was contemplating himself. Augustine, one of the most profound Christian minds, said that before anything was made, God was beholding himself. He wasn't inactive. He was perfectly active within himself. The Father loving the Son reflecting the Father, the Holy Spirit flowing between them, an eternal communion of infinite love. No need for creation, yet out of love, he chose it. This is crucial. God didn't create the universe because he was bored or incomplete. He created because love creates, and love desires something to pour into. So in that pre-creation eternity, God was already experiencing fullness, joy, and movement, not with stars and atoms, but within himself. 2. God was conceiving the story. Some early Jewish mystics believed that before creation, God was dreaming the universe into being, not with fantasy, but with holy intention. He saw the entire scope of history in an instant. From the fall of man to the final redemption, he saw Adam, he saw Eve, he saw Abraham, Moses, Mary, and even you. Yes, you were part of the pre-creation vision. Psalm 139, verse 16 says, "All the days ordained for me were written in your book before one of them came to be." That means before Genesis 1:1, your story already existed in God's mind. Every breath, every mistake, every tear, not as a pre-programmed robot, but as a cherished child he longed to walk with. Let that hit you. Before there were stars, you were in God's heart. So what was he doing before creation? He was thinking of you. 3. He was preparing for war. Now here's where it gets darker. Before there were galaxies spinning like dancers through space, before Michael ever unsheathed his sword, before the archangels gathered in rank and file, there was one, the first, the being who came into existence as the very first ripple in the still waters of eternity. But who was it? If you listen to some ancient traditions, ones whispered in early Christian thought and echoed in Hebrew mystical writings, it wasn't Michael or Gabriel. It was a being of such beauty, such radiant perfection, that even the angels who came after would tremble at the sight of him. His name? Lucifer. Let that sink in. The first created being, the crown jewel of heaven's design, was not an archangel of war or judgment, but the one who would become God's most bitter enemy. 1. Lucifer was not born evil. It might be hard to believe, but Lucifer wasn't always dark. The Bible says in Ezekiel 28, "You were the seal of perfection, full of wisdom and perfect in beauty. You were in Eden, the garden of God. Every precious stone adorned you. You were anointed as a guardian cherub, for so I ordained you." Lucifer was God's masterpiece, covered in glowing stones. Radiating the glory of heaven, He didn't just play music, his very being produced it. He walked among the fiery stones. He stood closest to the throne. He may have been the worship leader of the heavens, leading all creation in adoration. So what happened? How does perfection become perversion? 2. Pride was found in him. Ezekiel continues, "You were blameless in your ways from the day you were created till wickedness was found in you. Your heart became proud on account of your beauty, and you corrupted your wisdom because of your splendor." Lucifer looked at himself, and somewhere deep in his radiant spirit, a whisper rose, "I deserve more. Why should I bow when I can rise? Why should I worship when I can be worshipped?" Isaiah 14 gives us a window into that moment. "I will ascend to the heavens. I will raise my throne above the stars of God. I will make myself like the Most High." Those 5 "I will" statements shattered the harmony of heaven. And so the first being God ever created, once the brightest light in all of creation, became the first to fall. 3. Heaven was torn. This wasn't just a disagreement, it was a cosmic betrayal. And when Lucifer rose against God, he didn't come alone. Revelation 12 says, "His tail swept a third of the stars out of the sky and flung them to the earth. A third of heaven's angels followed him." Can you imagine the heartbreak? The very first of God's creations, perfect in beauty and wisdom, turned on him. And with him, millions of angels fell. This wasn't just the start of evil. It was the first war in the history of existence. And even though God could have blinked Lucifer out of existence, he didn't. Why? Because every move was part of a deeper, eternal plan, one where light and darkness would dance through history, where mankind would become the battlefield, and where God would one day step into flesh to win it all back. So here's the question I want you to wrestle with. If the very first being God ever created could fall so hard, if someone so close to the throne could be consumed by pride, then what does that say about the power of free will? And if God knew Lucifer would betray him, why did he still make him? Let's bring it all together now. From the eternal silence before time began, to the rebellion in heaven, to the creation of humanity and the gift of free will. We've been tracing the most ancient mystery of all. Where did God really come from, and who created him? But here's the truth that ties everything together. 1. God is not from anywhere. He is God, never became anything. He never started. He never evolved. He simply is. I am means existence itself. It means he is the cause of causes. It means God exists outside the limits he himself designed. Before space was stretched out, before atoms knew how to bond, before Lucifer sparkled with light, before you took your first breath, he was already there. 2. The war that marked time's first fracture. Lucifer, God's own creation, became jealous of the very one who gave him his beauty. He desired to rise above the throne of the Most High. "I will ascend. I will be like the Most High." Isaiah 14:14. And with those words, the first war wasn't fought with weapons, but with wills. Heaven became a battlefield. Michael the archangel rose up with his legions. The very atmosphere of heaven cracked with thunder as Lucifer and his loyal angels were cast down like lightning. That's when time changed. What had always been harmony now had a ripple of conflict. What had always been eternal stillness now held the echo of rebellion. 3. The earth becomes the arena. After the fall, the earth became the proving ground. Here, God would reveal a plan that no angel saw coming. A God, eternal and untouchable, would step into time. He would wrap himself in flesh, be born through a virgin's womb, live among the very beings who rebel, and then die for them. The cross wasn't plan B, it was the plan all along. Because the question was never who created God. The real question is, why would God step into his own creation to die for it? So maybe we've been asking the wrong question all along. It's not who created God, but what kind of love is this? That God would enter his own story and die to bring us home. Think about that for a moment. Let it sit in your soul. Now I want to hear from you. What do you believe about the origin of God and the purpose of our existence? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I read every one of them. And if you made it this far, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss a story like this again.